is numb right now.
Yes, it's a lot of things, and then the thing is that we're moving from one topic to the other, and that's why. But when we get to more focused topics, it will be easy. Okay? So, adding and subtracting fractions. The rule is the same for both adding and subtracting. So, in order to add and subtract fraction, you must have the same denominator. If you don't have the same denominator, you can't add them. Okay? So you always have to find that lowest common denominator, and then you have to multiply your top and the same thing for the top and the bottom in order to keep the same fraction.
So denominators are on the bottom?
They're on the bottom. So in this case, I have 2 over 3 minus 3 over 4. Obviously, my denominator, the 3 and the 4, they're not the same. What would be my lowest common denominator?
3.
It can be lower than the denominators that you have there already. Okay? It cannot be lower. Yeah. So it's 12, right? It has to be. So you take the denominator, and then you go and find the factors. So 3. The factors for 3 would be
6.
So we start with 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on, right? The factors for 4. So basically, I'm reciting the table of multiplication, the multiplication table for this. The factors for 4 is 4. We start with 4, 8, 12, right? You stop once you find something that's common in both of them. As you can see here, 12 and 12, so that is your common denominator. Okay?
Yep.
Now, a lot of times, you'll find that if you multiply the 3 and if you multiply your denominator, that would be your common factor, but it doesn't have to be your lowest common. So if you're really, really, really stuck and you can't find it, just multiply it and name it as your lowest common denominator. Then you have to simplify it. Okay? That's if you're really stuck. Now, so that being said, my lowest common denominator is 12. Right? I like to put it under the same fraction. The reason for that is because I don't want people at the end subtracting the denominator, because you can't subtract it. Okay? So you see what's going to happen. What do I have to do to 3? What do I multiply 3 by to give me 12? 4. So that means if I multiply the 3 by 4, I have to do the same thing for the numerator. Whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. Okay? So what's 4 times 2? 8. What do I multiply 4 by to give me 12? 3. Whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So that's minus 9. So the answer is going to be negative 1 over 12. So you subtract your numerator, leave the denominator as is. Yes, because it's a minus term. See that? That means you're subtracting. Oh, you mean the answer at the end?
Yeah.
You can write it like this, or you can write it,
1 over 12.
it has to be negative because 8 minus 9 is negative 1. So you can write it like this. So you can write it like this. See? How can you add these two fractions? OB be your lowest common denominator?
And
10, right? Because if I count the factors of 2, right? If I name the factors of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, right? The factors of 10 are 10, 20, right? So you can see that 10 is a common factor, common multiples. Okay? So in this case, what do I have to do for the first two, for the first denominator to get 10? What do you have to multiply 2 by? You have to multiply 2 by 5, right?
Yeah.
To get 10. So I have to do the same thing to the top. So that's 25. How about this part?
It's left alone.
It's left alone, so it's multiplying by 1, or you don't have to even worry about it, right? It's the same, right? So that's gonna be, okay? Now when you get your final answer at the end, you also have to look to see if you can simplify, okay? Reduce it, right? Both of them are divisible by 2, right? So to reduce, you divide each by 2, so that's gonna be 16 over. That will be your final answer. Anyone have any problems with this? A lot of time it's the subtraction and addition is the one that gets people. It's because you have to do the common denominator.
Isn't there another way of writing that?
You mean by mixed fraction?
3 and then
Yeah, 3, 1 over 5. Yeah, that's called mixed fraction.
For getting the common denominator, can we use the LCM method?
That is the LCM method. But you probably learned it back home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's probably easier than this.
So the mixed fraction isn't simpler than that, or that would be.
It's up to you. You don't need to go to get to that step, right? You don't have to, but if you do, it is the proper way to write it.
is there a better way, or is it just either way is okay?
Either way is okay. For the purpose of this course, there's no reason you need to write it in the mixed fraction, but mixed fraction is the proper way to write it.
How do you change it? How do you change it
How do you change it to proper fraction?
to mixed fraction?
Mixed fraction. To change it to mixed fraction, you have to see how many times does 16 go into 5. So that's 3 times, right? So that will be 3 whole, right? And 3 times 5 is 15. To make it into 16, so you need 1/5 more. So it will be 3 whole and 1/5. Okay? So you go to 16, how many times does 16 go into 5? The closest thing. 3 times.
No,
Oh, you said 16 goes
Sorry, 16 go into 5. How many times?
5 into 16. 5.
5 is 16. How many times?
3.
3 times.
1.
And then 1 over 5. Yeah. So this is gonna be your answer in mixed fraction. But you can leave it as improper fraction. We're good with it.
We could just leave it at 16 over 5.
That's
We don't have to break it down to the last
That's
denomination.
correct. Yeah. Are we okay with this? Alright. Now, multiplying fraction, it's as simple as multiplying numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. Okay? We don't have to do a lot of work. We can do the simplification first, the reducing first if we want, or we can do the reducing at the end. Okay? So that comes to your own preference. I always prefer to reduce first because I'd rather have small numbers than big numbers. Okay? So what I would do personally, I would reduce, so you have 2. When you're reducing with multiplication, you have to always reduce a top with a bottom. It doesn't matter where the top is and where the bottom is, because we're multiplying. You just have to make sure that it's the top and the bottom. Okay? So basically, I can reduce that 2 and that 4, right? They're both divisible by 2.
Cross multiply.
No, we're not cross multiplying. We're just simplifying. We're not multiplying. Okay? So that's gonna be 1 and that's gonna be 2. Right? So you see now.
So simplifying is finding a number that is divisible by either any number. And
You have to be able to divide that number by a numerator and a denominator. Okay?
And it can't be just the denominators or
No.
just the numerators?
No.
It's
It
gotta
has to be
one of each.
one of
at
each.
least.
One of each.
Do we have questions where we'll reduce the whole question? Like, for example, if they could all be divisible by a number, would it work like that as well?
You can only divide 2 things at a time.
Cross.
Right? So let's say if you have 6 over 2 times 3 over 4, right? You have to pick. Do you want to do 6 and 4 or do you want to do 6 and 2? You have to pick. Right? They're both. The 6 is divisible by 2 and the 4 is divisible by 2. Right? 6 is divisible by 2 and the 2 is divisible by 2. You have to pick. You can't do all of them. Okay? So you have to say, okay, I want to simplify this and this, or I want to simplify this and this. It doesn't matter. So you can do divide by 2 so you get 3, divide by 2 so you get 1, and then you multiply across. Okay? You can't do this and this and this all at the same time.
Could you simplify one and then once you got that and still find that you can simplify it?
If you
again?
can, still, yes, you can.
As long as the rule applies for a denominator and a numerator.
That's right. It has to be denominator and numerator. So let me give you another example. So if you have 12 over 2 times 3 over 4, right? So you can decide to go, okay, 12 divided by 2, so that's 6, and that's 1, right? I can still divide. I can go still divide by 2, so that gives me 3, divide by 2, that gives me 2. Okay? But you did not do it for all 3 of them at the same time.
Right.
You did 2 different
Right.
simplifications, right?
Like, what if you don't simplify them, multiply them, and at the end simplify them?
You can do
Will
that
it
as
affect
well.
the final answer?
Nope. As long as you simplify, like fully simplify to the lowest number, to the lowest fraction. Okay? So, this is it. I can't simplify anymore. So if I want to multiply, I have to multiply numerator by numerator, so that's going to give me -1. And then denominator by denominator, that's going to give me -6. Right? The answer is going to be 1 over 6, because if I divide negative by a negative, it gives me positive. So, for the dividing fractions, so what you're going to have to do first thing before you do any simplification or anything like that, you have to change the division into multiplication. Okay? By doing so, you're going to change your sign from division to multiplication, and you have to flip your second fraction. Okay? So, you have to go -2 over 5, change the division into multiplication, flip your second fraction. So it becomes 4 over -3. Now you can go into simplifying if you can. Right? Can I simplify this? No. There's nothing there's no numerator and denominator that I can simplify. So this is a symbol of multiplication. You multiply numerator by numerator, so that's -8 over -15. It can't be reduced. 8 over 15, there's nothing that goes into both 8, divides 8 and 15. But I can write it as a positive 8 over 15. the conversion from fraction to decimal because we all have calculators and there's no need to stuff your brain with things like that, right? With respect to fractions, you need to know how to do them because most of the time I will ask you, not most of the time, I want the answer in fraction. Unless the question is given to you in decimal, right? Unless, let's say, if you're doing area and the area is already in the length is already in decimal, then you can give me the answer in decimal. But when you can, the answer should be in fraction. It should not be in decimal. Okay? So this is something that I want you to know how to do: adding fraction, subtracting fraction, multiplying, and dividing. With respect to decimal, you just have all you need to know is just enter it in the calculator, do 3 divided by 25, find the answer. I really need to stuff your brain with things. Hard. Okay?
We have a simple formula.
What is it?
For decimal fraction, decimal.
Yeah, but as I said, I don't really want you to remember that. Honestly, fraction to decimal, I don't care. Plug it into the calculator. Find me the answer.
Decimals to a fraction different.
Now, decimal to a fraction, you can do it, and that would be by, I'll show you how. Okay. So, decimal to fraction, you're gonna have to move your decimal so you have 0.25, right? So, to go from a decimal to a fraction, because your calculator will not do that for you, some of the calculators will not do that. So what you have to do is you have to move that decimal over until you reach the end of the numbers. Okay? So in this case, I moved the decimal over 2 digits. Right? So since I moved the decimal over 2 digits, that means it's become 25, but that 25 is divided by 100 because I've moved it 2 digits. Okay? So if you do 25 over 100 on a calculator, it should give you 0.25. Okay? Now, if you look at this one, what do I have to do? How many times do I have to move the decimal till the end
3
of the numbers? 3 times, right? So if I go 1, 2, 3, right? So that would be 777 over 1,000. Okay? So it's much easier to actually convert from decimal to fraction than to go otherwise. And also percentage, yeah? We'll talk about percentage. Are we okay with this? So, I just want to throw this one out there, just because, so if you have, let's say, 0. So if you have, let's say this, right? How many times do you actually have to move that decimal? 2. Because the zeros on the right of the decimal, right, at the end, doesn't mean anything. But the minute you add a number, so if I do this, then you have to actually move it all the way to the end. Okay? But if you have only zeros, then you just have to move it 2 digits, and that would be 54 over 100. Okay? But if I add a number at the end of these zeros, you have to keep going. Make sense? Everyone makes sense. Okay. I feel like I can do magic with this. What does a percent mean? When I say 79%, what does it mean? Out of 100, right? So it's 79 out of 100, right? So if you want to write this in decimal, what do? You can divide it by 100, or simply you can take your 79 The decimal is at the end, and you can always move it 2 units to the left, right? So that means you're gonna end up with 0.79. Okay? You can enter this on the calculator 79 over 100 and get that answer, the 0.79. But again, at the same time, you can write it and then start from the end of the number and then move to the left because you're dividing, you're moving to the left. 2 units.
It's definitely, I like to do the math.
So to do the math, you can do it on the calculator, 79 divided by 100.
I mean, any, what type of calculator, is it official class or what?
For this class, I would prefer a scientific calculator that looks like, yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, okay, so
This one would also give you fraction, right? So that's a good one. Now, how do you go from decimal to percent? Multiply by 100, that's right. And then if you're multiplying by 100, which way do you move your decimal? I did not hear you. To the right. So you're going 1, 2. Why are we moving 2? Because it's 100. 100 has 2 zeros, so we have to move 2 to the right. So that's going to be 4.5%. When we're dividing, we move to the left. When we're multiplying, we move to the right. Are you guys okay with this? Okay. How do you write 45% as a fraction?
Right over 100.
45 over 100. Simple. Okay. Done. That's a fraction. Right? If I want it in decimal, what do you do?
Move the decimal point 2 spaces to the right.
That's right. So you get 0.45. Right? So we're doing the same thing backward, right? Percentage, fraction, decimal means the same thing, written in different ways. What do you do if you're going from a fraction to a percentage?
Put it into a decimal. Ooh.
That's right. First, you have to convert the fraction into a decimal. Okay? So you have to enter that on the calculator. What's 4 over 5? And then multiply by 100 to get your percentage. Anytime you want to get the percentage, you have to multiply by 100. Okay? Can you guys do me a favor, find 4 over 5 for me? 0.8. Yeah? And then to find the percent, you just have to multiply by 100. So that's going to be 80%.